How you doing, Dragon?
All right, man.
How's everything?
How you doing, Dragon?
Doing all right. Rode the dragon last night.
Did
Like
you?
the dragon.
Did ride the dragon last night. Did ride. You should have wore that while riding the dragon.
I thought about it.
With a double dragon.
It's so freaking hot.
11:04.
Sorry, sweating it up.
I mean, mine. I don't know.
Well, Abby, you know what coffee?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Hey, Kai. All right, let's do this, right?
I don't know. He just said your name.
Want to join?
Where's Sherry?
I took some notes this morning. All right, so let me introduce it. If you like the topic, come on up.
Is there a chair today?
Yeah. So there was this guy, a big bozo, who thought they were going to heal the Night King. That didn't happen. Can you hear me? Yeah.
My check.
So when I was envisioning this presentation, so Art of Healing, right? I was going to introduce it with that and say like, yep, I was right. No, I wasn't right. Didn't happen. But really what I want to speak about here today are two of our favorite characters, Arya and Sandor, and sort of the physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological pain that they go through, the injuries, and then the healing, or unfortunately, the lack thereof in some cases. It's not a fairy tale. Like Sandor never got over his vengeance, right? That got me. But first, let's go through the panel. Who's here? Introduce yourselves, please.
Hello. LMR, LivingMyRhapsody. Thank you for having me. This is not working, is it?
Just kidding.
Oh, I did. I just sent you already picked coffee last night.
It has to be really close to your mouth.
Hello. I know it's up here. Tony. Think of
Hey, yeah, what's the deal? I'm having my hand on this and I ain't getting that close to this. What's the deal? You know, Teflon, people take pictures, put on the internet, change things around. Oh, no. What's the deal with people? You know, this Don Tony Teflon. Teflon TV is a channel on YouTube. Happy to be here with everybody.
I'm Luke from the podcast of Drinks and Those Things. Drinks and Those Things on YouTube, at No One Drink on Twitter. We did a full rewatch of all 7 seasons in between the season 7 and 8 gap with our first time watcher, Gertie, sitting over there, so she got tormented by us that had actually seen the show. And thanks for having me.
And I am a Kay. You can usually find me with the Mad Queens on YouTube. That is Monero Geek TV and Timo Lisi, T-Baby, and Lady Diligence. Forgetting names now. This is my first panel now, and I'm a bit nervous because I wasn't supposed to be here. But thank you for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Omar, did you go?
Yes, I did. I know you're paying attention.
Sorry, I was looking. All right, so the way I'm envisioning this, I did say it's Arya and Sandor, and obviously they're both their injuries and their healing or lack thereof is connected in a way. We'll get to that. So, but I've been to a couple panels and I've seen good ones and bad. No, I've seen the goodness of panels, and the way I was envisioning it when I first signed up for this, I thought I was just going to do a lecture. I was going to write out an essay, memorize it, and just geek out. But I want it to be a little more fluid with all these geniuses up here and potentially interactive with you guys. So just to give you a heads up, it will start out kind of nerdy. I want to gear the conversation towards the Pats, sort of to review the injuries and the growth that they've gone through. But ultimately, the point of this, I've decided, is to get a little fun, some tinfoil ideas. We're going to leave with some tinfoil, see what you guys think about it, and just have it on our minds. But let's see. Before we do that, I just want to get because they did this in LMR's panel. So when I do streams, at the end of my streams, I have this thing where I ask people where they're from. That's Tone's thing. If you guys don't know, the reason like a lot of us are friends is through this online community. So I would recommend everyone join every single person up here's channels as soon as they go live. Like Tone, you were just going live 10 minutes ago.
Yes, it was.
I'm outside. I get the pop up, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I just love watching his videos. Next thing I know, he's in the marketplace, so I ran up there. But yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you don't know the people up here, get on their live chats, and we can build our deeper friendships with all of you here today. But okay, ready? Sandor Clegane. So Sandor, he says it twice. One time he says it to Arya, at least in the show. He's sitting there when they're on the rocks in the dark, and he says, hate is as good a fuel as any to keep a man going. Because, Arya's got the hate too. And then later on, when he's with Ray, or the Septa Maribold type guy at the Quiet Isle, or, the priest guy, he's like, what kept you going? Wasn't it Ian McShane?
Ian McShane.
And he says, hate. And Ian McShane's kind of like, no, something else. And he's right and he's wrong, because like a lot of the times Sandor makes his decisions, he's making them because of love. But at the end of the day, he was still driven by hate, at least in terms of his brother, right? So that's sort of the framing of Sandor. So let's, again, we're gonna get to the fun tinfoily stuff, but let's go over all the basics. So who wants to say, what does Sandor hate, and where does it come from? Where does it stem from?
I think his hate, the most he gets is from lack of love. I think everything that he wants is truly to be loved and respected for everything that he does, but ever since he was a child, he loves playing with a toy, got his face thrown in the fire and everything else. So if you really look at everything, with interactions with Sansa, interactions with Arya, it may come out as hate, but it's really due to the fact that he does not receive the love that he's truly getting. So when you look at anything in the world, everything everybody does in this planet, any planet, is for love. Whether it's your clothes that you wear, whether it's love for a fandom, love for your country, love for your parents, whatever it is, or all wars, or love for religion, wars and everything is always for love. That's what human beings strive, to be loved and to receive love.
I fully agree with that, and you have me nervous now. So I have to copy this movement that he's doing here. But I think Sandor is one of those characters that sees everything in that world and sees it in context. And what I mean by that is that he sees past all the BS, all of the rose-tinted glasses that people would have you say, your courtesies of the South and whatnot. Sandor sees past all that, and he explains all of that to Arya. The faceless men teach you how to see beyond the glamour. Sandor was her first teacher in that, to see past the nonsense. And I feel like he's one of the only true knights in the realm with how he is. He teaches, I don't want to say exact formations on anything, but he teaches realness. That's pretty much the best word that I can use to describe him. He has a lot of pain within him, and along with that hate, that mixes and blends with all of that pain, and that's what keeps him driven. But their story with Arya and the Hound of, the teacher and the student, we saw at the end, it kind of comes full circle and say, hey, girl, you don't want to end up here. You did what you needed to do, or what you thought you needed to do. Now go home. Leave. Let me end the way I'm supposed to end. This isn't supposed to be your end. Find a better path. And he's just one of my favorite characters because of the way he looks at things.
You mentioned something there. You said the word true knight. Out there, you guys, who is like the most true knight in the story?
Brienne.
Oh.
Brienne, Sandor, I think these are
All three of those.
What about if we go prior to the current story?
Arthur Dayne. Barristan Selmy, I agree with that as well.
Anyone that's boom, that's what I was going for.
Yes.
Dunk.
So it's pretty much, am I wrong that it's pretty much confirmed that Brienne descends from Duncan, right? Sir Dunk?
Pretty much confirmed.
Yeah, it's strongly hinted, but I think we all know.
Yeah, so George, I think he said there's going to be a hint in book 4, and she gets that shield, and it's got the, or she gets a shield, and she gets it painted with something from a shield from her home that was his sigil. So she doesn't even know necessarily that she descends from Dunk at all. Oh yeah, and then I think, was that episode called The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms?
The Seven Kingdoms, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Brienne is a descendant of Dunk.
Real quick, can I point out? I want to know what the connection is, because knights aren't supposed to be, having relationships like that.
What about in
King's Guards.
in Bran's vision? Does anyone want to speak about that? Do you guys remember Bran's vision from the books? The short lady kissing the guy, tall guy.
Lady Weber, wasn't it?
I thought it was old man and Dunk.
I think it's old man.
There's a few theories out there of who it could be,
think Lady
and
Weber is
there
old
may
man.
be more context given in future that'll confirm more, but yeah.
So what I was going to get at though is, do any of you think, because I mean Sandor's pretty tall, Gregor's pretty tall, do you think that, because I've seen people throw that out there, that Sandor may be a descendant of Dunk, and that would be just very interesting in terms of the whole true knight thing. There's not really, I couldn't find any evidence.
Well, he's tall, right? He's supposed to be quite tall.
There are theories that essentially anyone who's tall, mentioned as tall in the story, is specifically descended from Dunk the Tall.
But thematically with that, like, true knight, Sandor is totally not the true knight to start out with, or at least you think that way. But the fact that he kind of is he's like the only one out there doing what you should be doing.
It would be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the case, but it would be interesting to see.
Staying on Sandor, if I may, you brought up context. He always sees the context around him, which I think is kind of one of his superpowers in the story, is he does allow himself to see the true nature of people and situations. And as you brought up, the way he was raised, with his face being put in the flames by his brother, and then his brother shortly thereafter being rewarded by being knighted for very likely cruelty-driven motives, he's been conditioned to only see the true nature of people. Don't follow the tradition if the tradition rewards cruelty. Which seems to be, steeped in the main part of what knighthood is in the frame of the story that we get. And so we get characters like Brienne, we get characters like Sandor that fulfill the true aspects of what it should be, what it means to be, but that's been perverted over time. And that true heart that comes out in Sandor is, I think, one of the main things that people truly find compelling about him.
And actually, to add to that, you mentioned that whole, is it on?
Try the other one.
That's okay. So I'll try to speak louder. So you mentioned the whole fire thing, right? So for me, I think he was betrayed. He was betrayed by his brother, and he was betrayed by his family because nobody acknowledged what happened to him. It was hidden. It was like it never happened, So his pain, not only he lost half of his face, he lost his brother, then he lost his father too, because his father didn't, smack the heck out of that dude. He just said, nothing happened. So, and I think because of that, Hound, I'm going to call him Hound. I know you hate it, but the word proud.
Well, as of this part, he's still a hound.
Word proud. He has people's backs in a good way. I mean like kill them, right? I mean he does that too. He has their backs because nobody had his back. So he got Arya. Well, he kind of stole her, but he was protecting her, and then he tried to do the same to save Sansa.
Happy kidnap.
Yeah, just come with me. You won't die, maybe. So he has that.
I'm not happy a kidnapping you got.
I'm just saying. To me, it seems like he wants to protect people in his own strange way because nobody had his back.
It seems like he does have his own motives. Like all the, you talk about knights and everything else. You talk about hearing about the knights standing by and allowing the king to rape the queen. Now, when you look at the vows and everything else, what are they supposed to do? So I think that he's called the Hound because he's a dog, and dogs are loyal. So it really doesn't matter. He does the job. He's the same guy who did ride down and kill the butcher's boy, right? He did do that. So when you look at him in that sense, I just think that he's just a straight dog. He's loyal to whoever his master is at that time until he becomes his own master. And I think that happens when he becomes the gravedigger in the show. But it takes him all the way up until that time to get to that point.
More details though on Elmar, you mentioned the scene where Sandor was talking to her, or the Hound was speaking to Arya, and he told her the story. The books didn't give us these details, but it got very emotional. What actually happened? Why did Gregor burn his face? Why did Gregor burn his face, specifically?
Wasn't it just a jealousy that somebody would take
That someone took something that he was playing with,
It was a toy knight.
Not yet.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
And he wasn't even playing with it. Was sitting there on the floor, forgotten probably by Gregor, but he saw his little brother with it, as some older kids are with their siblings.
So that's trauma
And he got
too,
mad.
because he played with a knight, and knight got him into trouble, and he never wanted to be a knight. Plus, he didn't want to be who his brother became.
So two more things. You had mentioned, Luke, he got rewarded. Who rewarded him? Do you know who knighted him? Rhaegar knighted him. What's Gregor's most notorious crime? Killing Rhaegar's wife and children, or at least end with some help. Man, that's bad. And one other thing we didn't mention yet is that, because Elmar, you mentioned how he killed his father, or he burned Sandor and then killed his father, but who else?
The missing one is killing his sister.
Yeah, it's his sister.
We suspect. I don't think it's blatantly stated, but you can pretty easily put it together that in one of his wild moods or whatever, he ended up killing his sister. And I think
Were there wives too at some point in the books?
he goes through two wives,
Wives, yeah.
I think, and die under mysterious circumstances not very long after.
Yeah.
So that's questionable. But I think the loss of Sandor's sister also plays a big part in the Sansa and Arya relationships that he develops. He doesn't realize how much he missed having that feminine influence around him because he had it when he was younger. And then again, it was stolen from him. And the person that did that exemplifies everything that's evil in the story.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that's actually where I wanted to go with it. I feel like that didn't even click to me. I'm a huge Sandor fan, a huge Arya fan. I've read their chapters so many times. It never really clicked to me that the impact of him having lost his sister may have had on his, like you said, the relationship with Sansa and Arya, which leads me to another point. This is tinfoily, and I used to be really hardcore on the Sansan train. We got any Sansan shippers out there?
Still could happen.
So Sansan's the Sansa Sandor thing. I actually kind of still like it, but I never thought it was actually going to happen. I thought he would die defending or something like that. But once it starts sinking in the fact that he potentially lost his sister, his brother potentially killed his sister, and that's why he has this relationship with Sansa and Arya. He does have some sexual commentary about Sansa to Arya as he's dying. He's not, he says he's going to RAP her. He doesn't mean that. At least I would, the Sandor that lives in my head does not actually mean that.
I think he's doing that as
He's trying to provoke her.
goading her up.
Yeah, oh, that's right, yeah.
He said, didn't he say he should have fucked her bloody,
Should've
at least
raped her
then he
bloody,
would have
yeah.
been happy at that particular time. So I think there's some truth to it, too. I don't think he's just trying to provoke. I think there's some, when you're dying and people are on death row, they usually come out to confess. You have nothing else to lose, you know what I mean? So I think that's in his own way, letting out his feelings that he has for her.
Yeah,
Is
certainly
that-
I mean, he's not doing a Mike Tyson type of fuck you bloody type thing when Mike Tyson said, I think it's a different situation.
I thought he was just trying to, like, goad her into killing her.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, but I think what Tony is saying is there likely was some other context to it. Sansa was very attractive. He pretty clearly had some sexual feelings towards her. Whether or not he was truly going to act on it, I don't think that's what he's claiming. But
Love.
on his deathbed, and his hope for it to be a deathbed, he's at least acknowledging those potential feelings, I guess. Because also, why not? If that's going to help her kill me quicker, it's only going to be beneficial. But I think there is truth into him being attracted to Sansa at that time.
And he kind of died, you said, on his deathbed. That's kind of when he started dying, because after that he wasn't himself. He became, he surfaced somewhere, right?
The great.
Yeah, there we go, yeah, thank you. So in a way, that was his deathbed.
Yeah, that's the symbolic. I'm such a nerd with this. I said it a million times. I'm sorry if you've heard me say it a million times, but so he's the Hound up until that point. He, at least in the books, he's got the Hound head helm. That sort of defines who he is. That's left behind when, I guess, Brother Ray, or not Brother Ray, the elderly brother, they get him, they bring him to the Quiet Isle, but the Hound's head helm is left behind. Wars ends up having the Hound head helm. He's running around the Riverlands killing people, and everyone is saying how Sandor is this outlaw, and he's going around ravaging the Riverlands, but it's not, because he left behind the Hound head helm and sort of grows into, he's a gravedigger. It's sort of that figurative, burying himself, becoming someone new, sort of a rebirth. And that's why I get all corny with, his name's Sandor Clegane. But the Hound is cool.
And I really like what Tony said about that's when he becomes his own master as well. He was a Hound, just loyal follower until he was able to cast that all aside. I think he was learning some of that with his time with Arya. I think he got a lot from Arya as well. Her intense consistency of wanting independence, I think he learned from that as well. So it was reciprocal in that relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's actually, that's a great point that you guys mentioned that. In the histories and lore videos, if you guys didn't know, I don't even know what a Blu-ray is. Doesn't it kind of look like a CD or something, like a small CD?
It's like a really small
But you can,
vinyl.
yeah, okay. But you can go on, there's a website like the Game of Thrones wiki where you can see all the history and lore videos that are out there, and you can basically look them up one by one, or you can just go to, on YouTube, you look them up by the titles. But the one about House Clegane, it's, he even says that, he's like, I was a dog who followed orders, no matter the orders. And then they actually carried that through into the show. Septon Ray said, he's like, I was just a coward who followed orders, no matter the orders. So that was cool that they brought that in there. But speaking of this, since we got to this topic quickly, the Sansan thing and the, looking at them as sisters, did he have a love interest with Sansa? She had promised him a song, and he never got that song. He got that song, but he took it. She never gave it. Did Sandor Clegane die a virgin?
I think he did.
I think so.
There isn't anything saying that he didn't.
I would, I have nothing wrong with it.
I don't know.
But I think he most likely did. I think the whole Sansan thing happens, a couple of things that lead there. The Sansa with the puppies on the lap, seems like you see her puppies on the lap, like maybe the puppies could be his kids, and the unkiss obviously is something that points towards that too.
Grab a question real quick.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
I was just gonna say that, you know, a lot of what I saw when he was the Hound and then becoming kind of into his own thing and taking it back, it was like I see the love thing that you were talking about, but also when you've been victimized, that's what you search for is control. And so everything I saw that he ever did was about him making a choice and taking control. I think he would have died a virgin because I don't think he would have ever been that vulnerable as somebody else. Like he was just about control, control, control. I'm going to do what I can in every situation to take that control back because I was victimized and I don't want to feel that way ever again.
Yeah, there was a...
There's different points because you said being vulnerable. There's side to that I can see, but for a lot of people they are not that vulnerable because there's sometimes no emotions when you do that, I guess. So I wonder if he actually would avoid doing it because he doesn't want to inflict that on other people, maybe. He doesn't want to be the controlling one. Again, I'm just...
Yeah, you couldn't say him dying a virgin if you're going to go by the show. The fact that they show the mountain, I don't know if you want to call it, having sex with the lady with Cersei, or doing whatever he did to her in that room. They show him going in there to do whatever he was going to do. So if you want to say that he's the opposite of his brother, then most likely he died a virgin if you look take it that way. But you need, you know, the mountains. I'm not here to defend the mountain, but the mountains are necessary evil in that land. You need evil people to control other evil people because, you know, they wouldn't have made that a Harrenhal if it wasn't for the mountain going in there and taking out these dudes and killing the tickler and all that stuff. So there's always going to be someone evil enough. You need someone more evil to control those people and be willing to do what they need to do to get rid of those people.
Sad but true.
Yeah, so there's a line, it's only in the show, it's not in the books. Early, I think it might even be episode 1, maybe episode 2, where Tyrion wakes up in the pen, or I don't even know. It'd be interesting if it was it a kennel? Was it a dog pen? No.
That
Was it? It wasn't like pigs or something, it was dogs?
It was dogs.
Interesting, so that ties into the Hound. But, so Tyrion says something like he's gonna go hunting or something like that for girls, and then Sandor says, or the Hound says, it's not a hunting if you pay for it. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean that Sandor hasn't paid for it himself even, but to me, it sort of told me that like he's a hopeless romantic.
Also, too, you go back to if you go with the show again, it goes back to the time with Bronn, right? When Bronn went to battle the Blackwater. And Bronn has all the girls, and they're sitting there, and he's not even in here. And Bronn says, "You're not even interested in all these girls. All you want to do is kill people, and that's it, you know." And he's like, "I put the girls in the ground too, just like you." And Bronn just wants to party with the naked girls before the wall, but he has no interest in partying with the girls. He just wants to kill Bronn at that particular time. Which I think he would have. I think if they fought, I'd take the Hound.
Yeah,
Would you take the Hound over
I
Bronn?
think after the long night, you know, all the guys and girls were all excited and picking off their men, and he didn't even want anything to
He
do.
actively push it away.
We got Team Broad out there. That's great.
Dancing Sean Pink, everyone.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that Sandor used to work for Joffrey, and I think that added to his cynicism. So he seemed to hate leadership at some point, probably because of that.
I don't think he hated leadership in itself, but horrible, what we'll say, false leadership. Like, as he saw through the nonsense that was Joffrey, I think, very early on. But like you said, he was a dog that followed orders, so he still had to do what he had to do.
I have a job to do.
Yeah, he wasn't going to allow Sansa to push Joffrey off when he was looking at the heads, you know. When he seen Sansa about to make the move, he grabbed her and that's like, oh, don't, you know. So if he really didn't like Joffrey, he could have like let her kill Joffrey right at the particular time, but he still was a dog and he still was loyal to Joffrey and prevented it from happening, but didn't want any pain or harm to come to Sansa also.
So do you think that was because of a main reason that he was loyal, or main reason was because he didn't want her to get hurt?
I think it's both.
Combination of
I think
both.
it's
Combination.
Want her to kill someone and have to live with that. That was my interpretation.
Okay.
Cersei's wrath.
Yeah.
Going down.
Yeah.
Get it out of there. Right there.
Yeah, that was a really good point too. He didn't want Sansa to have to live with that death on her conscience. If it's going to someone to be killed, he's going to do that because he's already wearing that badge of dishonor, if you will.
And the consequences, if he would not be able to save Joffrey, then punishment on him too, probably for not protecting him.
His
Where were
punishment
you?
from
Like, you were, like,
Cersei
right
would
there,
probably
why
be
didn't
to
you
beat Sansa.
Yeah, or him kill her himself.
Yeah, that would be
It's
bad.
on just the show. I waited for the show to end. Now I get to start the books. Is there more insight in the books about that?
About that particular event?
About that particular event? I don't
Not really.
think so.
If anything, it's whenever Sandor comes but during Blackwater, when he comes to Sansa's room, just their relationship entanglement at that point, you get a little bit, but nothing specific back to that instance.
The only detail that I may say is in the books, because the books are point of view chapters, right? So they're not technically point of view chapters, they're like very close third person point of view chapters. So we get to look inside people's heads, but it is technically third person. So it's Sansa's chapter, it's not his. We don't know what he's thinking. Oh, it would be amazing to have a Sandor chapter.
Right.
But something that pops up in a few situations, specifically with Sansa, I believe, is the words almost gently. Like in that moment, I think like when he wipes her, she's like because it probably says something like, the mean face looked down at me and then wiped the blood from my lip almost gently. I think at one point he picks her up and it says almost gently. And it's sort of like he has this presence that's so scary, but then several times Sansa's like, she feels the compassion in him.
Yeah,
and it's in just a couple words that George uses a few times.
Another time that came up was whenever Joff basically stripped her in front of the whole court, and he comes up and puts his white cloak around her shoulders, and I think it's almost exactly worded the same of wrapped around her gently, or with some form of, you can look into it as there's some compassion or feeling for her at that time.
And that's what you do, like when you marry someone, right? You cloak them and you're protected. You put your cloak on them. So that's another thing that also hints towards the Sansa situation with him cloaking her at that particular time.
So I want to get into sort of go through a list of things. So we're going to go through the bad stuff that he's done, the good stuff he's done, and his relationship with fire. But before that, I just want to clear up one thing, because a lot of people, actually the same thing happens with Brienne. So a lot of people I'll see online talk about like him being a knight or Brienne being a knight. People get confused that when you join a Kingsguard, you're not necessarily knighted. Sandor specifically said, like, I'll join the Kingsguard, but I'm not going to be a knight. And Brienne was appointed to Renly's Rainbow Guard, but she wasn't a knight. You don't have to be a knight to be in the King's or Queen's Guard, apparently. But like I said, we want to go to the good stuff, the bad stuff, and relationship with fire, and then I'll lead to some other points. So, any of you guys, what events stick out to you with Sandor and fire? Because there are a lot, starting from obviously the one, let me start off with this. So the show is, I do love the show. I'm a book guy, even though I started with the show. The show adds in things that are just really good sometimes. Like that scene you mentioned, Omar, where he spoke about his brother, and he's like, the pain of the fire, it hurt, and so whatever, blah, blah. But the worst part was, it was my brother who did it. Like, God, and a great actor. Hats off to Rory McCann. So that's obviously his first interaction with fire. But can you guys give me ones that stick out to you, whether books, show? Because there's some of the books that don't happen in the show, but they all sort of give us some information with things.
For a couple, I know the one after he was bitten and Arya wants to help him with, with the moon and
no fire.
Fire battle. No, but he actually is risking his life. He's risking his life to make. Because it would save him. He would not be so weak if she would have done that for him, and he just said no. So it's like, I'm willing to die if it means I won't be anywhere near the fire.
You know what just clicked? That's awesome, because I had always envisioned, I had like such a fairy tale ending for all the characters I love. Well, I got my Arya ending. I wanted Arya to get past her darkness. Like I think I said in one of our panels maybe yesterday, where I was like, I didn't like this. She was smiling at the phrase. Like, I like what she did. But I was kind of like, I love Arya. And it was like, that was a little too dark for me. Like Jon kills people that killed him, and he's kind of sad about it. But Arya was just like, yeah, she's lustful. So I wanted to see Arya not end the story with a kill. And that is what happened. And it's funny how, I don't know if we'll have time to speak about Arya, but how their arcs are connected. Like, Arya's first pain is childhood. All kids are picked on, Arya especially for being different, right? But her first, dirtest, that's a very broad type of pain that a lot of us have. Her first, unique pain is the butcher's boy saying, I killed your precious Michael. His name's Micah. So one of her first pains in the current story is with Sandor, but then he's also there at the very end, getting off of that dark, everything that brings her. What was I going to say though? I don't know.
Fire.
Right.
Yeah, we're still talking
Other
fire.
fire scenes?
Yeah, I think that the thing with him and fire is that he's afraid of it, but he's willing to fight through it if he has to when his chips go down, So you see him shit his pants at the Battle of Blackwater Bay, right? He didn't want no part of the fire. He fled from that, but when he was fighting Beric Dondarrion with the fire, he got the strength. He didn't want to die at that particular time, and he fought through the flames and got through and killed the guy, So he's able to get through it at certain points. I guess I don't know if it's just it's his personal life is on the line. He's willing to do what he has to do.
Yeah, I think you pointed to the one I was thinking of, which is the second best cave scene in the show.
What's the first and what's the second? Well, everyone, I'm really slow. Everyone laughs.
God's so secret in the cave.
That's the one?
That's number one.
Oh, okay.
Number one in my heart. That's one of my favorite scenes of all time. But I think Sandor fighting through the fire to take Beric and Darian down, I think is a great point. Another one that comes to mind would be, it's a show-only one, but when he actually looks into the fire, when he's back at that same house that he killed, or in his mind, let the father and young daughter starve to death because he took their money, he feels responsible for that, and that's the same place, which there may be some magical connections going on. Obviously, he sees something in the flames when Doros tells him to. And that's a bit of a game changer for him. He doesn't necessarily believe in the Red God or anything, but he's seeing some evidence towards that. And I think that somewhat changes his relationship with fire at that point. Not that he's, oh, I love fire, fire is great and stuff, but I think he potentially starts getting over some of that fear because he can see some of the other types of power that fire can provide necessarily. I don't know. I'm conflicted on where that really gets us, and it's not really based in show material at all, so we're kind of just going with what we have on that, but that's another one that really sticks out to me.
But my question with that was, is it really a game changer? Because once that came into play for me, my automatic first thought was going back and watching all of his behaviors in having to deal with the trauma from his childhood and that fire. He's always getting drunk. I think both him and Gregor, we see like they have slight dependencies on Milk of the Poppy because of how much they try to like get whatever things are in their head out of their head so they could maybe, rest at some point in times. Did he see something that messed him up so bad as a child to where he's just been running all the time, and on the surface it's just, I don't like fire, I don't want to be burned and have to relive that trauma, but is there something deeper?
Yeah, there were certainly theories going around of did he see something in the flames when he was young that foretold something negative about Gregor, and that's actually what drove Gregor to putting his face in the flames. The show doesn't really get into it at all, but there's some compelling information for that. And so that's not the first time he sees something.
I have a question for you. So the moment where he is facing his brother, saying, who's coming or what's coming for you, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Comparing it to the one when he's looking into the flames, which one was first, if you remember?
The flames.
When looking into the flames was first.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering if he actually saw something over there, and then he said it to his brother.
He saw the Arrowhead Mountain up north.
So like he saw maybe something happening, and then basically he said it to his brother, what's coming for you, because he saw it in the fire. Kind of like a vision or something.
So I was saying, what it all goes back to is that, he's a servant of the Red God, right? Yeah, a big servant of the Red God. And you can break it all down just from the show right there. He gets his face pushed into the flames and everything, right? He beats Beric Dondarrion. He sees the Arrowhead Mountains, which lead to the White Walkers. And then Beric tells him, a little light, let you beat me. Why? Well, we know why, because he had to take care of Arya and let Arya kill the Night King, right? So if you break it all down from that, in the beginning, that was his job, was to get Arya into that position to defeat the White Walkers in the show. I mean, most likely in the books, if it goes down like that, that's what it would be, and that's the only reason I can see it. But I think that the best part about that scene in the cave when he's finding this Arya screaming, "Kill him! Kill him!" Like, I love that, how she's killing. She wants to
And she tries to, after the judgment is already passed, she tries to go and do it herself, and they hold her back.
What do you think about the scene when he actually dies? Because he dies, I don't know if he dies by, falling, or because he dies into the fire. That's how he dies, in a way.
Unconfirmed death.
That's what I'm saying, like, off screen, right? Like, he's still falling, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that's correct.
Definitely broken heart.
Well, heart attack falling from that height. Yeah.
It's fine.
In terms of him seeing something in the flames as a child, I absolutely love it from a storytelling perspective. Like, it would be gnarly. The reason, at least, I think it's definitely still game in the books. It may have been their intention in the show, but the reason I don't believe it in the show is that when he looked in that flame with Doros and them, he looked pretty surprised. Like, what? like, you know, if you had seen something before as a kid, you know it's possible. It seemed to me in that moment, just the way he looked at the flame, like, like that, he didn't know that was possible. So I don't think he had a vision in the flames when he was a child, but maybe. It almost lives in my head that way, though, just because it opens up a lot of cool theory crafting and opportunities. But,
Say a scene between Sandor/Hound and Varys about fire would have been an interesting one. I'll just put that on too.
Nice.
Wait, say that, explain, what do you mean by that?
Well, so Varys was cut and his manhood was roasted
yeah.
over the fire, and the Red Priest said some words and something spoke back. And so I'd be interested, especially after Sandor sees the Arrowhead Mountain, if they had just a real quick conversation like, how was it for you experiencing the Red Guy for the first time?
The Red Priest, though? I thought it was just a warlock.
I thought it was Kimbara.
It was a warlock that cut his thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was talking about the,
flames. A
yeah.
voice came out of the flames.
Yeah.
Yeah, later on Kinvara says, do you want me to tell you what the
it
voice
said.
said? Yep.
So the warlock was just probably, probably serving up the red guy too.
Acolyte,
Yeah.
early.
So, oh, sorry.
No, just like you could probably say, the fire people who makes all the pyromancers probably serve as all these fire people like that.
So there's a pretty cool line in the books that, again, I'm just really nerdy. I like stuff that a lot of people don't typically like, but I think you might like it. And they kind of give it a little, sorry, I'm such a tool. I like, and they did give a little nod to this in the show. Do you remember, oh yeah, it's the first time that we see him in the show in season 6. Does anyone remember the very first scene we see him in season 6?
He's walking, carrying the log by himself.
We don't even see him. We see him doing something, right? What's he doing?
He's sitting doing on the log somewhere. He's sitting on the log doing something.
Yeah, he's by a log. He's chopping wood.
Chopping wood, yeah.
What do you chop wood for?
He's building
Fire. And it's better. So that's a nod to it in the books when he's traveling with Arya. Do you guys remember any wood chopping from the books? It's very, very small. It's awesome line though. You know what happens? So he's like, so they're traveling. I think this is after the Red Wedding. And he's just pissed. Like he's pissed it's not at life. He like even the show, like he hates these people. He hates himself. Like everyone's just killing people. And he takes out his anger on wood. He's chopping wood like left and right, like and Arya's like, but the worst part is like it's annoying. He's chopping wood. And the worst part is he often goes to bed without even lighting a fire. So it's like there's so much to those couple little lines. They're just taking out his anger. It has to do with like wood for a fire, and he doesn't light it. Wow, I love that line, the wood chopping. And I guess that in a way, there's a couple of things that tie into this concept of. Man, what I was getting at earlier when I mentioned the Arya darkness thing, Arya, all these characters, the way I envisioned them at the end, it was the fairy tale ending for them because I love them and I wanted like the best for them. Arya got it in a way, she escaped the darkness with the help of Sandor. Jaime, for example, I know a lot of people don't like Jaime, no names, but I love Jaime, and it's like I saw him and Bran coming a mile away, but I thought he was going to leave behind Cersei, and he didn't get over her, and at first I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Now I love it because it's so human, like, and to be honest, it's like his unconditional love is almost powerful to me, but it's not a fairy tale. The story's never been a fairy tale, so it's I kind of I love the version that I saw happen way over my version, and the same thing with Sandor. So many of us, you'll still see all these huge Sandor fans out there, like he's going to be the gravedigger, and this is not going to happen in the books, and that may be true, and I'll love it that way because I love Sandor. But it's so real for him not to be able to get over his vengeance. And so he never truly healed, at least in that aspect of his life. But there are a lot of ways that he did heal. So let's get into some of the other stuff. Like, what are some bad, there's a lot more good than bad. What are some bad things that you've seen him do in the story?
Micah.
Well, that's
the first. I mean, again, he was following orders, yeah, but dude, he was a child and he really didn't do anything. Joffrey was just being a little punk ass. You could have finagled something, went to Robert and had it reined in a little bit, but Hound's got a hound.
You get told him to run. Say, listen,
Run back to Winterfell.
Tell him that you killed him to get out of here, to disappear, and that would have been it or something like that if he really wanted to. But he killed him. He wanted to kill him, and that's why he did it. He obeyed orders, and he had no really guilt. I'm sure he had some guilt. That's what he talked about. When you talk about things, usually have guilt. Usually, the people who are hurt the most inside are the ones who inflict hurt on other people. They try to somehow get their pain out by hurting other people, and like that's what I think it goes down with like his brother. His brother's so mean, so cruel, because he has so much pain inside of him, and I think that's what's going on with the Hound too.
There's a question there.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer this right here. I think the worst thing he did for his character, say what you want about like who Joffrey was, he betrayed his kid.
That's a really interesting debate, because there's that concept like you're a Ned Stark.
I didn't even see you.
You come across to me as a Ned Stark, and it's like, but then you got someone like, and Tone mentioned it earlier. So there's a scene. It happens. Oh no, it's in the canon in the first 5. You don't learn this in the show. This is part of the reason I love Jaime Lannister. And but you could use the same thing to say you hate Jaime Lannister. Before this story started, him and another like suppressed another one of the Kingsguard. They're out.
Hightower.
Who was it?
Gerald Hightower.
I don't think was it him at the door.
Was it? Yeah, I think.
Oh really?
think so.
And he was Lord Commander, right?
Yep. That's why it mattered to me.
So they're outside the door. Mad King Aerys is in his gradual descent to madness, and he's basically like, he's sexually assaulting his own wife. She's in there crying, like making noises, screaming, and Jaime looks over at him and he's like, dude, like, we've got to do something, man. Because after like, he would burn people and stuff, they wouldn't spend time together, but after he would burn people, then he would get turned on. Thank you. And so then he would get a little vicious. So she's in there screaming. Jaime and I guess Lord Commander Gerald Hightower are outside. And Jaime looks at him and says, we've got to do something. Like, we are sworn to protect her. And then Gerald or whoever, was it Gerald? Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
So.
And he looks over and he's like, not from him.
Yeah, we are.
I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Chicane.
Yeah? I don't know. I like Jaime didn't do anything, but I kind of like, you got to step in there and like, and that's the whole debate between like, so you hate Jaime for killing the Mad King, even though he saved 500,000 people, because he had sworn to protect him.
There's a debate there. He didn't have to kill him the way he killed him.
That's who you are. That's what your name. I'm the name person.
Yeah.
And whatever tack right to your name, you gotta obey it and you gotta honor it. So that's what you shouldn't have took the job. That was there. Those signs were there before you wanted to be in that position. You should have read those signs a long time ago.
That's certainly a really huge topic, and it kind of opens up more Ares discussions, which is not really this panel.
That's fine. That's fine. I like it.
But whenever Ned Stark's father and brother were killed in the court by King Aerys, then Jon Arryn, Robert Baratheon, Ned Stark start this rebellion. Are they traitors? You can make the debate that no, absolutely not, because the king has a duty to protect his people, and if he is actively killing his people, the people have every right to take him down. It's a mutual, it's not king here and everyone else is just there. It has to go both ways in any relationship, and he's supposed to be the protector of the realm, and if he's the one doing these heinous crimes, then it's not treachery at that point.
But I also think if you have that conversation, it's also going to go way back to the, when the Targaryens came and took the throne. So
it's
hard argument to have.
And dealing with that though, you can't have this brother going down there talking shit, hella shit. Bring Rhaegar out.
Come out and die.
Bring out and die.
Come on, Brandon.
Go to the White House right now and scream out there, Ivanka Trump, come out here and die. See what happens.
You will get shot in the head. That's just not smart.
Stuff.
It's
So,
not smart.
it goes back to that stuff. You gotta have respect too, and the guy was just so he can just go down there and do what he wants. I think he's dumb. He rolls down there with a couple of heads. You gotta roll down there with an army. You gotta, if you're gonna really do something, go all the way with it. Don't go half-ass way with it, you know what I mean? So that's kind of their fault.
May I ask how you feel about Jonathan Snow? Because so you've got Jaime. The show does some great stuff. So the show had that.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
After this.
Yeah.
Oh, so real quick though, right? I'm gonna keep my hand here so I remember. So that line, that conversation with Jaime in the pen with Catelyn, like, obey the king, serve the king, obey the father. But what happens when your king? Were you saying that?
This is my wife right here.
I think the worst thing is to be a knight in Westeros.
We talk about that all the time. We agree on this.
What I call the so many vows.
There's so many vows.
Because it's right. What if you come from this high kingdom and this is your father, like Tywin Lannister, and you're serving kings like Aerys and it's all circumstantial because it's all depends on the views of these kings and their faiths and their whatever they are. How do you uphold that versus your family? And those are big honors. Your father, remember, the son of somebody like Tywin, it's a big thing. All Tywin wanted him to do was go rule. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta fit like.
In conclusion, it's a really bad system.
And also, just a heads up, I don't know. I don't know, I don't know for sure, but I think on Monday, or not Monday, sorry, what was the first day of the con? Yesterday, what was that? Friday? On Friday, I think on Friday, I think there was a Knights and Vows panel. Did you go to that one or no?
No, I was actually in the hospital.
Oh, are you okay?
I got food poisoning.
You doing all right?
And where did you eat?
Martin's barbecue. I had the pulled pork. They said they leave it roasting all day fresh. Or they eat too fresh.
There might be. Well, I think there might be a panel today, or there's a second one on the same concept. It might be. I think it's tomorrow though. So check that out. There's another like vows and nights type thing.
So this doesn't really have to do with that.
That's fine.
Wraps back around to the Hound, but or Sandor. But I really
like your
love
style.
What the show did in the end was let him laugh about the fact that he couldn't kill his brother. That he's lived his whole life waiting for this moment, and I really love the direction that they let him laugh about it. Like, I can't believe I waited all this time and now he's not going to die, and it's just. And I think that has to do with some of his healing.
You know, it just clicked. Barrett got the Gregor's through the eye. This just clicked, and he did that too.
It still didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work, but it's still like poetic, just one. Yeah.
Can I add to this? Do you actually? Question for you.
Sure.
Do you see him ever being happy?
Well, I think he's dead.
I know. He's still falling in my like if he actually killed it, if he succeeded and did that, do you see him actually being happy?
No, I think his happiness was to get Arya out.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's his last
I agree with
thing
that.
of happiness.
That was the last good thing he needed to do.
Yeah, because we're not going to get to this kind of stuff, but when I was going to go through like the good and bad type things, or like fire, is that a lot of times he does freeze in fire with fire still, and it's like he never. God, I just wanted him to get past fire. We all thought he was going to use a flaming sword to kill the Night King or kill Gregor. That's so fairy tale. It would have been badass though. But there are a couple times that he did overcome fire. It's like, yeah, he broke at the Battle of Blackwater, but he didn't just leave. He went up there and tried to get Sansa to go. Or like he broke with the bear, and our man Thoros went down. But then and he broke at the back. Gosh, he broke at the long night.
Yeah.
Until Arya needed him, and he was there. So it's like that goes back to the whole thing you guys are talking about, Arya.
And it was Barrett that pointed that out. Like, yeah, tell that to her.
I want to get just like a. Oh, sorry. I want to like open up and just ask you guys a couple of general questions. We've got 4 minutes left, so let me just end with this. It's a Jon Snow's very first chapter, Arya's very first chapter, where it's like two roads sometimes lead to the same castle. I used to say that about the show, because personally I was always like, I think they're going to end the same. They're diverging, two roads are going to lead to the same castle, the show and the books. But really, Jon just says that to her because, Jon's going north, she's going south. Lo and behold, two roads led to the same castle. For a lot of people, including like Theon and Sansa, but also so Sandor and Arya, and like we said, her first thing was that it was Micah killed the butcher's boy, her friend. Oh, and she felt like it was her fault, right? Well, yeah, I was planning on doing an Arya and Sandor panel. If you guys didn't know this, she does say it in the show too.
Yeah, she says it.
Yeah, she thinks that it's her fault that he got killed. Poor little girl.
Ned said, basically said, his blood's not on your hands. That's only on Sandor's at that point. And she loses her direwolf at that point too.
Yeah.
That's survival guilt right there.
Yeah.
But so the one thing that LMR mentioned today, which I hadn't even ever thought about, fire, right? So he got injured. Rorge bit him. Am I saying that name right? It's a weird name.
Rorge and bite her.
He bit him, and he didn't embrace the fire for the healing. So a lot of people like I love Brienne. Lady Brienne is awesome. She won the melee. She's clearly one of the best fighters. But people do forget that A, she had a Valyrian steel sword, and B, Sandor was injured. Right before they fought, Sandor was walking with Arya to the Vale, and she's like, "Oh, you're walking a little slower than you used to," like that. No, he called it a flea bite. That flea bite's gotten you walking a little bit slower than you used to, or something. But it did. So when we think about, I didn't see this coming at all. But when we think back to the fact that now he never truly overcame vengeance. Like, it's like he should have gotten past Gregor. Like, forget him. It's not worth your time, and he didn't. And I like it. I like that it happened that way. It's very real. But it ties into the fire. Like he didn't accept the healing. Something that could have healed him. He didn't. He was right there for him, and he didn't take it.
Death.
What's that?
He risked death.
And Brienne whooped his ass. I don't think I
I could give you that.
His ass, that's the bottom line. I can't give you nothing else.
So I know we've spoken predominantly about Sandor, but a couple quick honorable mentions to other characters that had a lot of healing books and shows. Theon, obviously. Arya clearly went through some trials and tribulations. Sansa has her own, and in book, Victarion goes a very different direction with it, but it also applies. And there's hundreds of other characters that are touched by it.
We've only got like 1 minute, ready? But someone pointed this out to me on YouTube a couple weeks ago. So this only happens in the show where he fights Bran. They don't do it in the books, at least not yet. I think there'll be a team soon. But he falls down a mountain, so to say. So that was pretty interesting, that little symbology. I think the word symbolism. Just real quick, but what is everyone's? We're like done here. It's but what is everyone's favorite part of the con so far? For me, it's been I guess it was watching Tone kick butt at the Dreadnought challenge.
There you go.
You guys are gonna see a video of this. He was like,
You'll see the video.
you were off, and then somehow you came back on.
I've got skills. Queens, New York. I'm talking on this mic. I feel like Joe Scott holding this too close to my mouth.
I'm sorry. Did you have a question? We'll end with that. Were you gonna say something earlier?
It was more of a crosstalk. You were pointing out, Jamie was given the title Kingsguard. He should have gone with that. But Tywin was appointed the Kingsguard by Ahab because he wanted to mess with Tywin so he could inherit. And so I don't really know if Jamie actually wanted to be Kingsguard. And granted, yes, he should have stepped up to his role. But I just wanted to say he wasn't there necessarily willingly.
Well, I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think he did one because it's like he looked up to Arthur Daly.
Yeah, I guess everyone wants to be.
Hey guys, just a heads up. We're done. I don't want to mess up you going to your next panels and stuff. Or actually, there's probably someone coming in here. That's probably the bigger problem. Thank you everyone for being here. Appreciate it.
Like, scoot it real quick for me, please. Scoot.
I don't scoot.
Okay, step over. I can't. All right.
That was good.
So we get out of here. Yeah, right.
I'm sweating.
Thank you.
Did you get my tweet about wolves? Did you do that or not?
Did Ben run away? Did Ben run away already? Oh, no, there. Ben!
Like, I wanted to get to the fun. The wolves.
Yeah, I'm having fun. Relax. I'm not trying to find something.
So you got boost? Oh yeah, that was
Looking at these, I'm like, did we get like ice
But
cream?
if you're around, it's
Get the hell
like
out of here. That's insane.
Hey, fuck. I mean, I tweeted you the time.
This is gonna blow your mind there.
Oh yeah,
Ken.
sorry I didn't get to. I should have got to.
I get
Did
it.
you just walk in or were you here the whole time?
I was here the whole time.
Were you there? Did I see you? It's fine. How did I not?
Here's the deal. Hey,
I would have just like called you out.
he would be the coolest thing to see because I just thought of it.
What's up?
Sandor's fever dream after he falls down that mountain.
That would have been good.
Oh, I never got. Oh, sorry. I never got to my tinfoil. I wanted to ask people if in the books if I'm not gonna say it now. I can keep this.
You can.
I'm gonna search up.
Have people wanting to meet you here, man.
Hi, how are you?
Fans.
Just give me 1 second. Look, real quick.
But it's fine. You do your thing.
Dial of 1. I think no. I have a panel in 12, 13 minutes, but
I understand.
sorry.
hunt you down later.
No. Just give me literally 1 minute. 1 o'clock if you're there. So 1:30. If you're around.
Let me check this
So I'm gonna be at wherever it is if you show up. No, because I have 6 of them.
No, I should be there.
I see you have a backpack.
Hello.